Okay. Okay, so we're recording this meeting. Good morning, everybody. This is Linda Kopecki. I'm the interim executive director of the Minnesota Breastfeeding Coalition. You are at the steering committee meeting for the Minnesota Breastfeeding Coalition. So if you weren't sure where you were or where you were going, this is where you are, and we're happy that you're here. And so we're just going to launch right into getting to know each other. And I know people are going to join as we continue. But I am, first of all, I am going to put something in the chat for you. This is a link. I'm going to copy this. And I'm adding it to the chat. If you see a link in the chat, I would like for you to go to that link. That is the map. I sent that map out earlier with the follow-up email to this meeting. And that map is, I need to open it up first. And that map is just where our community is. So now I'm going to share. And I would love for us to get to know each other through this map and just to see what we are all bringing to this team. And I wanted to start with the board members. I'll start with myself really quick and just show you how to use this. So for example, what you see on the screen is my view, but then you may have to have a split screen so you can't manipulate the view that I'm sharing, obviously, but you can go to this map and you can add a pin, you can move things around. You can observe. You do not have to go to this link. You can just watch. You can put something in the chat. But let me just show you how this works. So the activity that we want to do is just getting to know each other and where you were inspired to work in breastfeeding. And I'm just going to show you my examples. So first of all, to do this, you click on this red button, which will be on the right side, has a little plus sign or edit, and you can either drag the pin somewhere, or you can write in the section what you're trying to look for. So that's how you can add your own pin. So welcome everybody. I know some people are still joining us. This is Linda Kopecki, and we're just doing this activity to get to know you. I'm going to show you where I put my pins. So first of all, I live in St. Paul, Minnesota, but I did not mark that. I marked 2 places as really essential to me learning about lactation and getting inspired to work in lactation. This is Mali, which is in West Africa. And you'll see I put that pin on there and I said I was in the Peace Corps here years ago. Their breastfeeding is 100% completely normalized. And that was my first real experience seeing people breastfeed around me where everybody was breastfeeding. And that was, I think, that sort of set the tone for me that breastfeeding is the default infant feeding method. And I put my name on here. I want you to put your name on your little tags. The second one I put down is in North Carolina in Chapel Hill. This is where I met my first IBCLC and I got hooked. I was in graduate school in public health and I met somebody who actually is one of our leaders in the lactation profession. She's since passed away, but she was a real significant person in my life. So I'm wondering if some board members can unmute themselves and they can share their stories. That can take too long per person, but I definitely want us to get to know each other. And you can put something in the chat or you can add a pin. So who wants to go next?
I will.
Okay, hi Jeannie.
Hi. Hi, everybody. My name's Jeannie Freeby. I'm an outpatient lactation consultant in central Minnesota, but I live in St. Joe. That's where I put my paddle. and literally moved there to put my paddle in the water because we moved to a lake. Haha. So I got inspired to work with the breastfeeding population when I was a NICU nurse. And personally, as a mother who suffered from failure and not reaching out or getting help back in the 80s. And here I am today, and then involved with this lovely board and just the community and lots of great people.
Thank you. And just so everybody knows, Jeannie is our incoming chair-elect. So she's been on the board and she's moving into a position in 2022 of chair-elect. So in 2023, she will be the board chair. Welcome. Any other board members want to go next?
Sure, I can go. So my name is Tina Laux-Ratz. I am the current chair of the Minnesota Breastfeeding Coalition. Thank you all for being here. I fell in love with the field of lactation as an itty-bitty baby nurse. I was a nurse intern at Gunderson Lutheran at the time, now Gunderson Health System in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And I grew up from a family of bottle feeding formula family, and the very few family members who breastfed were closet breastfeeders. So it wasn't something I was aware about really. And breasts were, you know, sexual from what I grew up. And so it really opened my eyes to the field of lactation, and I just felt a strong desire from that experience to support and empower and really help break down barriers for everybody to be able to feed their babies as we were intended to. So thank you all for being here, and I look forward to hearing from the rest of you.
So thank you. So Tina is our current board chair. In 2022, she is moving into the position of past chair. So when you are chair, you have chair-elect, chair, past chair, which is a 3-year term. So she's moving into her 3rd year in 2022. Thank you. Who wants to go next? And Tina, I'm going to pass this to you to call on people. Okay.
Great. Kim, would you like to go next?
Sure. I'm Kim Welvert. I am the RN IBCLC at Centricare St. Cloud Hospital Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. And I'm moving into the MBC chair position starting in January, which I'm super excited about. As far as the map goes, for some reason, it's not working for me at the moment. But the place that started my love of lactation was Troutdale, Oregon. When my mother breastfed my brother, that'd be awesome. Breastfed my brother, we're 4 years apart, and that's when I became a lactivist. And I started nursing my stuffed animals in public and without a cover. So that is where, you know, I learned, and I had really good role models, and that's where my love started.
Awesome.
Thanks, Kim. I'm trying to see here. Do we have any? Oh, Akmiri, would you like to share?
And I can add the pin if you would like me to.
Morning, everyone. I'm Akmiri Sakara. I work for the Cultural Wellness Center, and I am a board member with NBC. And my love for lactation began 30 years ago when I nursed the love of my life, my daughter, Zamaya, who's 30. She'll be 31 in January. And that's when I was introduced to breastfeeding at that time. I was not breastfed by my own mother. For whatever reason. I was born in the early 60s, and so it wasn't something that was promoted. My mother also had twilight sleep, so she just said she woke up and I was in her arms. So I talked to her about that a lot. So I love breastfeeding and I support it wholeheartedly all around the world. And so I began in Minneapolis, Minnesota at Fairview Riverside is where I had my daughter.
Are you one of these pins or do I need to?
I already put mine on there.
Okay, is this your, I'm going to edit this. I think this might be
I
yours.
didn't put my name. I was a little confused.
You did?
I said I didn't put my name.
Oh, okay. I will add your name. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think a lot of us born at that time can share that experience with, you know, the twilight sleep and the, yeah. That's,
Okay, I have to ask a question. What is twilight sleep? Because I wrote it down to look it up. So can somebody enlighten me to what that means?
Yes. My mother it was like they're kind of knocked out. So they're kind of halfway in, halfway out. And I guess they take direction to push or whatever. But she said she didn't see me come out or feel me come out. She just realized I was just on her chest.
Ah, right. Yes. Okay, now I recall reading about that in The Big Letdown. But prior to that, I was like, what does that mean? Okay.
Yeah, I was born in Springfield, Ohio. It's a tiny town in Ohio. So
Thank you for sharing, Akmari. Let's see. Do we have any other board members here with us right now? I don't think so. Would anybody else like to share where they fell in love with lactation? I currently have Carrie on my screen.
Sure, I can go.
Thanks,
I
Carrie.
am a pin in like, I put West St. Paul, but I think it maybe put me in Minneapolis. I'm probably one of those three.
there you go. Oh, that's
yeah,
cute.
that's me. So I was a public health nurse in Dakota County doing family home visiting, and I did not know much at all about lactation. I was trying to help families during home visits and wish I had more information. So I was super fortunate to be able to take a 45-hour course. But I had just finished, my oldest son had just weaned, and there were just like light bulbs going off when I heard so much of the information where I was like, oh, that's why that happened. Oh, that's why. There were so many things that I just wish I had known during my journey and wish I had reached out for more support. So yeah, that was very inspiring and helped me support my families I worked with much better. And what's cuter than a little milk drunk baby?
Thank you, Carrie. Laura, would you be interested in sharing?
Sure. My undergraduate nursing program at Duke in North Carolina was one in which breastfeeding was presented as in a very positive light, even though a lot of people in that area at that time were not breastfeeding, but some were. But the teaching we got from our teachers was very positive. I ended up in Oklahoma because of my spouse in the Vietnam War in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And when I had my first child, my daughter, I was one of 2 women out of many women who had babies at the very same time I did, who was breastfeeding. And it all went well. I really didn't have any problems because of some of my past experiences, I guess, except that I didn't really have a sense that one could breastfeed for however long one wanted to. And so partly because of sort of some negative influences by some relatives on my former spouse's side of the family, I did wean earlier than I would have otherwise with her. In graduate school at the University of Maryland in Baltimore, I had a lot of opportunities to work with breastfeeding women as both a student and later as a faculty member, and with preterm babies, and trying to get breast milk for them from their moms. And that just further made it important to me. And then I ended up teaching childbirth education classes for CEA of the greater Washington, D.C. area. And we taught the childbirth classes, but we also really taught a lot of breastfeeding in our childbirth ed classes.
So all over the place.
Yeah, and then another one that I could really relate to what you said, Linda, was that I was able to take, it was only a single quarter in the winter here in the ever lovely weather there in Uganda. I was able to spend 3 months there and completely immerse myself in a breastfeeding culture like you described in Mali. And it was a short time, but it had a huge impact on me in many ways. So that's kind of where I would put my little stakes down on the map. I couldn't get it to work from my end either, but
that's why I'm here to help out.
Thank you for sharing, Laura. Now I would love to maybe hear from some new faces and voices if you don't want to share your face. I have not met Kendra from Diva Moms before. Kendra, would you be interested in sharing where your passion for breastfeeding originated?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Kendra McGee from Diva Moms. I'm the program coordinator. I originally was breastfed. So, and I would say that is Little Rock, Arkansas, which is my hometown. And just really got more interested in it at the age of 8, when my younger cousin was born premature. So she was breastfed and also did donor milk. So instead of playing with baby dolls, I was taking care of my younger cousin. So that's my loyal story.
Nice. That's
Wonderful.
awesome.
Thanks, Kendra. All right.
If it's okay, I can go ahead and share.
I'd love that. Thank you.
So I actually filled out a location. So the one that you see for Gary, Indiana, which is right by Chicago, that's me. Unfortunately, I didn't put my name on it. First of all, my name is Keisha Mitchell, and I am the new program manager for the African American Babies Coalition and Projects. I work directly with Samira. Well, I work for Samira. So my love for breastfeeding and lactation came also at an early age. I have 7 brothers and 1 sister, and I'm the youngest of them all. And our age ranges are very vast. So when I was about 10 years old, I became auntie. And I just remember being enamored with the whole process and being able to see my nephew being born into this world, and his mother breastfeeding him, and I would ask questions and things like that. But that actually opened up a conversation in my family that actually has happened from not only my nieces, but now I have great nieces and great nephews. So where it was something that was taboo to talk about, now is an open conversation that even my mom, I call them the silent generation. Now she even talks about what her experience was growing, like she was still learning a lot of new things as we were being raised. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Keisha, and thanks for being here. Is it Keisha or Kaisha?
Yeah, no, you're right. It's Keisha.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
Right. Would anybody else be interested in sharing this morning?
This is Barb. I will.
Hi, Barb.
Hi. And yes, Linda, I'm not going to try a new technology at this time of the morning, so I will let you drive.
I'm here to be your lovely assistant.
Yes, I'm going on the coattails of Keisha. I also come from a very large family. I'm the youngest of 8. I think Hastings deserves a pin. That's where my oldest sister was breastfeeding my her 3rd child when I saw a woman breastfeeding for the first time. And it a lack of better analogy, it was a Doris Day moment for me, where I saw her as this glow around her as she was sitting there, a beautiful Madonna nursing her child, totally entranced with that. And so she was my inspiration. And then St. Paul would be my second one when I had my first child. And eventually, after that, in a couple of years, was introduced to La Leche Lake, which was my first entree into breastfeeding advocacy. So, yeah, so I've got a 20-year span with my sister. I'd challenge Keisha to find out what her span is. So,
I'm gonna do the math right now.
So
Wonderful.
I just
Thanks,
want to
Barb.
highlight, there's a wide variety in when our first exposure to breastfeeding was. Mine really wasn't until my 20s. And some people, their first exposure to watching somebody breastfeed is when they were a child. Really big variety.
Yeah, for sure. All right, anybody else interested in sharing this morning? You don't have to share. Oh, Keisha said 15 years between her and her older brother.
I can share.
Thanks, Jill.
And my name is Jill Smith, and I work for WIC in Blue Earth County. I'm the breastfeeding coordinator. I'm also a member of the Southern Minnesota Breastfeeding Coalition. And I am actually a little bit, I love hearing everybody's stories. It's really amazing to hear all the history and all over the world, or everyone's kind of had some experiences. My experience actually just started a couple years ago in Mankato, where I live, where I'm from. And I just turned 40 this year. So my experience is later in life, I guess you could say. Not that I didn't want to breastfeed or have more experience with it, but my family members, my sister, my sister-in-law, my mom, well, my mom never breastfed us, and my sister and my sister-in-law just started breastfeeding their kiddos just a few years ago. So I really just haven't had a lot of experience until I came to WIC. But I just had two babies. I have a 6-month-old and a 2-year-old. Like I said, I'm 40, so, and we still plan to have more. My experience is a little bit different in that I struggled to have children. Both my babies are IVF babies. And my breastfeeding experience myself has just been a challenge, but I am fully breastfeeding my almost 7-month-old, and it's been amazing. I almost get teary-eyed just thinking about it. But with IVF, I had PCOS and a C-section, and it was really hard, but I have been working through it and just persisting. And I was up with my son. He just had his ear tubes put in for several ear infections that he had, and he has been up probably 4 times on average at night breastfeeding every single night since I had him. So we have been enjoying that at night a lot, and with very little sleep, but I still really enjoy it. But sorry, I'm kind of just telling my whole story and just rambling on, but I guess it's a personal experience for me that I really struggled to get to where I'm at to being a mom. And with having 2 wonderful, blessed babies, I'm trying my hardest to breastfeed them for as long as I can. And I will be going on a trip to California in a couple of weeks, and I will be bringing my pump in a cooler and trying to get through that so I can get home to my little one after a 5-day trip and still fully breastfeed them. And it's just been wonderful. And I have no fear of I do not cover up when I breastfeed anywhere I go. I am super supportive when I see moms that are breastfeeding in public and don't mind showing their breastfeeding. and not sexualizing it. I've even gone up to them and told them that, oh, I just think it's wonderful that you're doing that. And yeah, so I could talk on and on about it, but I really enjoy breastfeeding myself and promoting and supporting other mothers. Sorry, go ahead.
If you look in the chat section, you'll see some lovely supportive.
Oh, thank you so much.
And just a reminder, this is a deeply, deeply personal experience. And a lot of us, most of us came into lactation because we had a personal experience that positive or negative, but somehow it, has transformed us into lactation, loving lactation and really wanting to help everybody else.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Jill.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to
Absolutely not. No
jibber
apologies
jabber,
needed
but
here.
thank you for all the wonderful comments.
We have time.
And while you're on your trip, will you have access to a freezer?
Yes, I will. Yes.
If it's possible, I was on a flight, I guess it's almost probably been 6 months ago now. But anyways, I had my milk in bags and they were liquid because I didn't have access to a freezer, and they put each bag in like a scanning device. The person who was doing it didn't really know he didn't explain much at any rate, and I didn't feel like I could question. So if you can freeze it, they said if it's frozen, they don't have to scan it.
That's good to know. I've been trying to research and reach out
There's
and
not
get
a
people's
lot
opinions.
Yeah, there's not a lot out there, but like you have to dig around in the I can't even remember the acronym of the, the people that manage the airline.
Right. I know. I was trying to fit all my stuff into a backpack to see if kind of estimating how many bags I'll have frozen and can I get it all in this little cooler and onto the plane and all of that stuff. So I think I can make it work, but thank you for that tip. Yes, they'll all be frozen and I hope that they don't start to unthaw on the plane ride home. So we'll see, but
thank you so much.
I
was looking at the names and I feel like we have 3 people left, maybe 4. I'm not sure.
We haven't heard from a few people. A few said that they weren't interested in sharing, which is totally fine. Anybody else?
Hi, Tina. This is Pa. I can go next.
Hey, Pa. Thanks, Pa.
Hi. Yes. Good morning, everybody. My name is Pa Shasky. For those of you who don't know me, I work as a health educator. Oh, I take that back. I work as an interim public health supervisor for the Ramsey County SHIP grant. So it's a statewide health improvement partnership grant. Let's see, my first time remember seeing someone breastfeed was my mom's sister in the early 90s. I was probably a first grader or second grader. And we were at a food shelf and my mom's older sister had just immigrated here from Thailand, from the refugee camps there. And I remember her breastfeeding, not being covered, and she was breastfeeding her new baby, who was my cousin. And I thought, I was embarrassed, sadly, like now I think back and I'm like, it was so wrong of me to feel embarrassed, but I was embarrassed for her. And I thought, oh my gosh, my auntie needs to cover up. But I didn't know how to tell her to cover up. And so she sat there and breastfed because that's what they do, in Southeast Asia. And I remember getting stares from the other clients who were waiting, in the food shelf and whatnot. But she did her thing. And then as I grew older and learned the benefits of breastfeeding and learned that this was something that, my culture, my people did before they came to America, I then wanted to turn back around, help my community out, and really bring forth or bring back the natural beauty of breastfeeding. So with that, I would say, Linda, could you put a pin on, I don't know, Minneapolis, Minnesota, lived here, grew up here my whole life. And so with that, I'm part of the Twin Cities Regional Breastfeeding Coalition and the Mom Breastfeeding Coalition. So I'm glad to be here with you, lovely, wonderful people this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Pa. Thanks for sharing your story. And we all learn, right? So no shame in how you felt as a second grader watching your aunt. So anybody else interested in sharing this morning?
Just gonna look at some of these other pins we have.
Hey, Linda, this is Melissa Bruns. I can share.
Sure.
Great, thanks, Melissa.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Melissa Bruns. I'm a regional outreach educator for CentraCare Women's Health Service. And my first introduction to breastfeeding was actually working on the birth center at St. Cloud Hospital. Growing up, no one in my family breastfed. I never really was exposed to it. I grew up in the Twin Cities area, Brooklyn Park area. No one in my family had breastfed. So my first experience was as a new nurse. I had some wonderful lactation consultants that were so dedicated, that took time to teach me as a new nurse on the birth center. And I was so interested and I just loved the relationship, the closeness that the moms and the babies had during those moments. So when I had my first baby 16 years ago, Jeannie Freebie was one of the lactation consultants that really helped me get through my first breastfeeding experience, and was one of those first lactation consultants that I met that took time to really teach me the intricacies of breastfeeding. And so, under their mentorship, I kind of blossomed and became an IBCLC, and now I help Jeannie and Kim within CentraCare. And really, my role now is I kind of go between all of our facilities and trying to increase our lactation support in those rural settings, because there's really not much. Oftentimes those moms have to choose, do I put $20 in my gas tank to go to drive to St. Cloud to see a lactation professional, or do I feed my kids? Not everywhere, out here has internet service. So that is an issue too. So those resources are really few and far between. So getting more, lactation professionals and peer lactation support in our rural communities is really, really vital.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa.
Let's take one more share. Anybody else?
Rosie, I saw that you shared your video momentarily. Were you interested in sharing?
I can share. I don't have anything new to add really, but growing up, my mom breastfed all of us, and I was 11 when my little brother was born, so maybe I saw it more. So I thought it was totally normal. And working in WIC, having leadership that was supportive in Dakota County, I got a lot of training and was supported in getting my IBCLC, and that was instrumental in me starting my breastfeeding journey.
So what's your location, Rosie?
I already put it in. Apple Valley is where I started my lactation work.
Okay.
Linda, she said she already put it in.
Oh, she did. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Good. Probably. There we go. Very good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for sharing.
Appreciate that. Before we move into the next piece, I also wanted to just share a land acknowledgement. And the reason we do land acknowledgement, and not all groups want to do land acknowledgement, but it's just making sure that we recognize where we are and the land that we're on, and the history that is part of the land that we're on. But MBC, Minnesota Breastfeeding Coalition leadership acknowledges that we're holding this virtual meeting on the traditional, ancestral, and present day home of Indigenous communities. So the beautiful land that we all love is actually the stolen land of the Dakota and Ojibwe people. So for the majority of the thousands of years that Indigenous families have lived here on this land, babies have thrived on their mother's milk. But that has been disrupted through colonization, violence, and forced family separation. It's destroyed the legacy of breastfeeding within these communities. So as the ED of Minnesota Breastfeeding Coalition and the leadership everyday Minnesota Breastfeeding Coalition, we recommit ourselves to just, collaborative, and respectful practices to honor the sovereignty of Indigenous people. And every day we recommit ourselves to policies that promote sovereignty over all infant feeding traditions and choices. Good time to just review our history too for this last steering committee meeting as we transition to the representative council. We'll take about 20 minutes here, but yeah, we have a timeline that is, and Tina, feel free to share our timeline. We have a timeline that was developed last February. That's part of the process of being in an interim period, a transition period between an organization that's been all volunteer led to an organization that has a paid executive director. And so this is on our website. If you look at the new website and you look at the section about us, you can see a link to this timeline. But I just thought this is a good time for us to reflect on MBC history and just where we started. And I'd love for people to unmute themselves and maybe share some stories or comment on some events, or even ask questions, because there are some people on here who are some founding members of MBC, and there are people who have been part of MBC for maybe even less than a year. So we have a wide variety. So welcome everybody. We're just looking at the Minnesota Breastfeeding Coalition timeline, but please feel free to just comment. And so Tina, are you looking for a control?
I was shrinking it a little. Can you guys see? Can you see the timeline okay?
Yeah, and then you can use the little bar on the bottom to move along. Right.
Okay. There we go. That one fast forwards. Okay, great. So as we can see from the timeline, we started MBC, the Minnesota Breastfeeding Coalition, back in 2006. And our founding members got together around somebody's dining room table and dreamed up what this coalition could look like. And I know there are some founding members on here, so if you would like to share a little bit about that experience, we would love to hear.
This is Barb. I believe I may be the only one on today who is a founding member. Makes me feel really, really old, you guys. I'm going to get at the other founders.
Linda Deck is on too, Barb. Linda Deck just
good.
joined us.
I didn't see she was here. Okay. Hey, Linda. Thank you.
Hi.
You know, all of my associations always go with food. So I do remember, you know, one of the first meetings around Dr. Lori Ricky's dining room table in St. Paul, as we were trying to figure out what and who could be a future coalition. And the thing that really stands out in my mind is her cranberry scone recipe, because she made the most amazing scones and offered her house for many, many meetings to plan it. So I guess that's one of my biggest memories, but it's been an honor to be part of that founding group and to see its rough beginnings, but to see Mary B. Johnson, who was probably the seed of it all, who brought various people from various lactation backgrounds together. or maternal child health focused folks to the table to craft what was MBC then. And it was, yeah, it's been an interesting process, and it's really cool to see it kind of moving on to the next stage. So that's about
I
it.
added the cranberry scones to the timeline.
Those sound really nummy.
Yeah, they're very good and very easy. They're drop scones, so you don't even have to if you don't want to even form anything. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing, Barb, and thank you for being part of the founding team. Linda, do you have any memories of MBC that you want to share as a founding member?
Well, yeah, I guess, and I'm looking at this timeline, it does go back a little ways, that in 2006, I think, you know, that first Usbc meeting was like the meeting that kind of started it all. And the opportunity to attend that, I think that one was in, I want to say, Washington, D.C., perhaps. And I had it just blew you away in terms of the resources, the purpose, the focus, you know, and it was at a federal level. I mean, it started at the federal level to purposefully get states coalitions up and running around this particular topic of, you know, this very specific maternal child health topic on breastfeeding, and just how serious they were about it, to put federal money, you know, towards it, and to see that would happen, and to provide the resources, and they wanted us to succeed, you know, that so we used a lot of their, you know, guidance and resources that they had available, and just kind of took it to our kitchen table or dining room table, and said, okay, now what? And try to figure out how we get this off the ground and going, given that this is not in anybody's, you know, wasn't any of it in our wheelhouse. I mean, this it was kind of all new territory for us, and how to look at doing it. And then since then, just those meetings, and I hope they can start reconvening those again in person, because they really have made, I think, a huge difference, and how state coalitions have progressed and carried on, you know, in some places different than others, but it's always been volunteers a lot of times, or those who were able to carve out some time from their work schedules, who had supportive, you know, employers, kind of seeing that, you know, it's really important to have something outside of the state government, you know, supporting this effort.
Wonderful. Thank you, Linda. And thank you for stepping outside of your comfort zones to make this happen, because we know that doing something new and different and outside of our wheelhouse is scary and hard, but that's why we're here. We're doing the hard things to make this place more equitable feeding landscape for all.
I think too that there were many pockets of breastfeeding advocacy across the state, and it was kind of a sigh of relief when the United States Breastfeeding Committee was formed on a federal level to say, okay, we see all you guys are doing all this work. Let's give you some guidance. Your work is important. Here is some money. Here is some resources. Well, we didn't get a lot of money, but then to see that, and then I've always felt that responsibility transfer, that now we have that in the state, and how can we help the local people on the ground, like they said, how can we help you states advance this? And I've always seen that connection there, and the role of continuing that on.
Awesome. Thank you, Linda and Barb. Are there any members on from around this time as well, who maybe weren't founding members, but who played a part in getting things off the ground? anybody who maybe attended some of the annual conferences or were a recipient of a Triple H award.
So somebody may want to describe what the Triple H awards are.
Oh, that was healthy. That was an award for acknowledging people or groups or organizations in Minnesota who, and it stood for the 3 H's in the original mission statement: healthy babies, healthy families, healthy communities. And we wanted to recognize those who were doing good. And usually, but we'd hear story, back then there media stories regularly about mothers who were being told to leave public places because they were breastfeeding. And so if we had heard about an organization or an employer or kind of thing who was breastfeeding friendly towards their employees or public kind of thing, we would recognize them and bring them to the annual meeting and have a certificate, hand off a certificate, have them share a little bit about why they do what they do, and so we did that every year at each of the annual meetings. And we started doing the same thing when we started having hospital summits to recognize a hospital as an employer who was breastfeeding friendly for their staff, because many staff at hospitals don't, especially nurses, don't have a lot of time and space for that kind of thing. So those that set up that kind of environment were recognized. So we wanted to make sure that that kind of thing carried on over the years.
That's wonderful. Thanks, Linda. I did not know that is why it was called the Triple H Award. So thanks for sharing.
That's our current mission too. We didn't change. We changed our vision. We changed the mission, but we did not change the vision, so that's our vision statement. But this may be something for us to think about as a body. How, if things are changing around how we hold events and the annual meeting, how do we make sure that Triple H Award doesn't get lost in the shuffle? So making sure that we still maintain that value of recognizing excellence and recognizing evolution in practices and policy development.
I was reading the chat, Linda, I'm sorry.
I do want to point out that the Triple H also was a little bit of a pun, because you think, oh, somebody's a double D or somebody's A cup. And I kind of imagine this Triple H. Okay, sorry about that.
Thank you for sharing that. Got to keep things light, right? And then in 2011, Austin was the first to become baby friendly through the Baby Friendly Hospital Initiative in the state. And who are the people in this picture? Are there any NBC folks?
The person, oh gosh, well, I know her name. I want to say it's Candace, but I may not be correct. But they in Austin, of all places, Austin, Mayo, of all places, became the first baby-friendly hospital initiatives that got their called certification kind of thing. And now is truly being the first hospital to do that, and it wasn't easy. It took them several years, but they did do it. I'm not sure if they currently are now, but it was one of those things where, being the first, we wanted to recognize them as well. And I think we did that at one of the annual meetings.
Wonderful. And the Breastfeeding Toolkit originated in 2013, revised in 2017. Does anybody have any memories of that or stories on how they have utilized that?
This is Jeannie. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I use the Breastfeeding Toolkit all the time in my encounters with my prenatal education when I meet with my patients. And it's in Spanish. Also use it for that population. Even though we have interpreters or mechanisms to facilitate crossing that language barrier, goes beyond that. It's culture too, but I love the toolkit. It's awesome. And I love Pam Hagee. She's on here because I think she was part of creating it with somebody else, and she's wonderful as well.
Thank you, Jeannie. And thanks to everyone who was a part of building the toolkit. How about anybody's history in our perinatal hospital leadership summits?
Yeah, we started those because we knew that was a different target audience. We tried to get hospital leadership like the CEOs to show up, and that didn't quite work well, but we got the eventually became more of the nurse managers or the labor and delivery managers of OB units, maternal or maternity centers. That actually mattered more to have that leadership there, and tried to get teams there to, because I think the thought was, we're preaching to the crowd, and lactation staff at the hospitals don't necessarily have a lot of say or in terms of setting policies and procedures. Well, if we can get the person there to have buy-in and educate about what baby friendly is and what it's not, and that those 10 steps, what can we do to bring those, get them on board? And that seemed to work well. And we tried to get the big guns for the first earlier meetings. So we had Ed Ellinger, who was commissioner of the Department of Health, and we had Larry Grumer-Strawn, who has always been quite involved. Now he's at the World Health Organization doing a similar work there. And just kind of having that presence there, and bringing in the experts to, physicians to talk to other physicians or healthcare providers who could be brought to accept baby friendly or the 10 steps. And then there's a group of us that went to Usbc in 2014 that, again, to how to start to advocate and for on behalf of this. And I think, we've just seen what happened with the Pump Act that Usbc has been encouraging everybody to advocate for locally, and just how far we've come with those kinds of things that Usbc has been involved with.
I just wanted to add to Linda Deck's. Well, Linda Deck has inspired me for a long time because I saw her from afar presenting, I'm sure it was at one of the summits or one of the fall meeting for the MBC, because I was on our local coalition. So my journey wanting to be involved with this organization started back with that, and it was like Linda Deck, Joanne Wesley's on here in the 2016 timeline. She's another one, Pam Hagee. And I would see these women like getting up there on the podium and talking and being inspired. And it's like, can I do that in my little corner of the world? And how can I be powerful and effective to do that? And another thing was, and I'm not sure it's part of this breastfeeding friendly just hospital, not the 10 steps. That was it was a little expensive for our hospital, but we got the breastfeeding friendly workplace award early on, and that took a little bit of doing it. So just those kind of things ignited my passion as a professional, also just to be involved with such a great organization. So I'm really happy and thank you all for that, because we all can inspire those just getting into this field or just getting started.
Thanks, Jeannie. You bring up a good point. Like we're here to promote the field, but also to empower others to continue to promote the field with us and after us. So we all have a very important piece to play in this, and thank you. You had mentioned, is that Joanne Wesley in 2016 awarding the Triple H Award?
Yep.
Yeah. Does anybody know who she's awarding it to?
Oh. Shoot, I should know this, but I can't quite remember.
It almost looks like a black and white from the 60s.
And then, Jeannie, would you like to talk about the about Rhonda Skelton and the Rhonda Skelton Award?
Sure, because we should honor this. It's a really special award, and I actually work with the nurse that was Rhonda's best friend right here in our clinic, and she's just has such powerful things to say about Rhonda. But there is an award, and I feel, yeah, like this is the 5th year for it, so we need to put that out there and look for nominees to receive it. And it's about being dedicated to implementing maternity care, breastfeeding practices, and that kind of thing. I was one of 2 winners from last year, and it was really an honor, but I'd like us to keep doing that. It's just a really good, feel good kind of an award. There is no monetary value. It's priceless.
I think that's, thank you, Jeannie. This is Linda. I think that's, it reminds me of the Triple H Awards, as we've made a lot of transitions in NBC with how we do events. And part of that's because of COVID, but part of it is just growing and evolving. How we have events, how we hold our annual meeting, holding the Perinatal Hospital Leadership Summit. These 2 awards that we make regularly, we don't want to lose those as a function of how we operate in Minnesota. What we do is recognizing excellence. So just bookmarking these 2 just for continuing conversations and making sure that they are part of our operations and our activities. I mean, that's one of the roles of the timeline, is to review where were some decisions that may not have been the best decisions, or where are some things that were amazing decisions, and how do we make sure that we replicate, expand, and continue these activities well into the future, even as we evolve and change. Pa, I'm looking at Equity Action Lab. I just wonder if Pa wants to mention that, and maybe we can close out this activity with a final comment on that. I think she's still there.
This is Kim. Could you go back just a little bit regarding the legislative, where you wrote about how time and money was put into that work but did not succeed? Just questioning how so. Did we go to the state capitol, or just want a little bit more history on that?
Yeah, is anybody on who could talk on that?
Marcia's here, and I know that she knows about it. Carrie, were you part of that? Marcia, did you want to?
Yeah, I could speak a little bit about that. There was we had hired a lobbying team and had a chief author that came forward that wrote a bill, and we had a bill that was introduced, and we got very, very close to passing. And we we were very deliberate in trying to make it inclusive. So, and what happened is that somebody came in from outside the state at the actual meeting where the bill was brought forward and raised objections, and it was tabled. And we were not able to get it back out of committee after that. We were told it typically takes 6 years to succeed. It was a 2-year effort. Not sure what else to say about it. There was a lot of hard work that went into it, and people that contributed from around the state that brought forward to their local legislators as well to help move it forward. So I feel like it wasn't, we didn't succeed in getting the law passed, but we did make a lot of connections and got a lot of support around the state. And it was very disappointing that it sort of got torpedoed at the last second, and we were blindsided by that. And
that's a big lesson learned, I think, in the licensure bill, and we've talked about this at the board and also in other groups, is that you know, that's the role of a timeline of, you know, what have we done in the past that maybe wasn't successful too. But I think what we've learned is legislative work, just making sure that it really is the long game, to make sure it's not just time limited, but we're in there for the long game, like paid family leave, or the Pump Act, which just passed the House at a national level, and also partnerships. So persistence and partnerships. I think we learned a lot about the legislative process, and it may not go back to that actual bill, but moving forward and perhaps a different, more informed way in promoting legislation.
Right. And we
Thank
did
you
not
for
succeed.
that.
Yeah. And saying we did not succeed maybe in our original mission, but we did succeed, or mission of the bill, but we did succeed in creating partnerships and awareness and looking at other ways we can break down barriers to people receiving lactation care. Pa, I can't see who's on right now. Sharing my screen is.
I don't know if she's not heard. Okay,
I'm on.
Thanks, Pa. Would you be willing to share about the Equity Action Lab?
And then we'll move on to our next activity.
Sure. So in 2018, Marsha, being the great data wizard that she is, broke down the state WIC breastfeeding stats and found that, you know, within the Asian the Asian subgroup, the Hmong community had the lowest initiation and duration rates, those that were enrolled in WIC. And so through a grant funded through the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, we were able to launch, with the help of a master's student then, Tiffany Yang, we were able to launch a community outreach where we held community forums, learned a little bit more about the myths and beliefs and practices of breastfeeding in the current Hmong population here in the Twin Cities.